Hey guys, so this morning I went through my collection, kind of did a little bit of an impromptu declutter, just picked out some products that I feel like I don't want to keep for one reason or another. Some of them I'm just not using, I'm not giving them the love that they deserve. Some of them they just didn't work out for me, and so I would like to go ahead and pass on these products. So just a quick mini declutter. Sometimes I do these more of like a overhead style where I like lay everything out for you and like sort through everything. But this time it was just kind of a small declutter. I didn't feel like it was necessary to go through every single category of my collection. I just wanted to pick out a few things here and there, just some kind of pre-spring cleaning, I guess. I've got a couple of palettes, some blushes, some complexion products, just a little bit of everything mixed in here. So let's go ahead and get started. If you're new to my channel, first of all, I want to welcome you. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. My channel is really centered around curating a makeup collection that inspires me, that I'm excited to use, and so really all my content kind of centers around that and inspiring you to do the same. I do project pans, I shop my stash quite a bit, and we're just all about using what we have here on this channel. So if that sounds like fun to you, I'd love to have you subscribe and stick around. I upload 3 to 4 videos every week. So let's go ahead and chat about the products that I'm decluttering. First, I have an unopened kind of backup product that I've decided to go ahead and let go of. I don't generally keep backups, but this I received in PR. It's a product I really like, so that's why I decided to keep the backup that I had, but now I'm kind of realizing it doesn't make sense for me to keep it. This is the Urban Decay Stay Naked Hydromaniac Foundation. I do already have another one of these open currently, and it is one of my favorite foundations. It's a great light to medium coverage, dewy, hydrating foundation. It's just a really good, reliable complexion product, but I'm just kind of realizing I don't think it makes sense for me to hold on to this backup because I don't even think I'm halfway through my other tube of it, and I've also got a bunch of other foundations that I'd like to work through, so I think it makes sense for me to go ahead and pass this on while it's new and unopened. One day I may run out of mine and decide to repurchase, but I just don't think I'm going to get around to using this in a reasonable time frame, so I'm just going to go ahead and pass it on now. And the shade I wear in this is 20 Fair, by the way, in case you're wondering. Okay, another complexion product. This one is sad too because I really do like this, but it's the wrong shade for me and I just don't see the need to keep holding on to it. This is the NYX Born to Glow Radiant Concealer. I really do love this concealer. I have the shade Alabaster in this, and this is just too light for me. I don't like wearing under eye concealers that are too light. I find that it ends up just emphasizing my dark circles even more, so I prefer more of a skin tone match. This is definitely something I could see myself repurchasing in the future in the correct shade, and I know that I could keep this around and maybe mix it with other concealers or use it to mix with cream blushes, or sometimes I like to use a liquid lipstick as a cream blush and I'll mix a little concealer in, but I can do that with my already existing concealers, you know, so I just don't see the need to keep around a concealer that's too light, especially because I do have some other concealers that are kind of this same type of formula and finish. Specifically, I find the Urban Decay Stay Naked concealer to be really similar. That's actually what I have on my under eyes today. I really like this concealer. It is kind of like a medium coverage, slightly more matte finished concealer. It sort of sets itself nicely. I feel like it's really similar to the NYX Born to Glow, so if I'm going for that type of look for a concealer, I can just reach for this one, and this one is the correct shade. And in this, if you're curious, I have the shade 20 CP. So I just feel better passing this on. That way I can just use the concealers that do work well for me and just enjoy those. Okay, next I actually have 3 cream blushes that I've decided to pass on. I know that sounds like a lot, but I just feel like it's time to pass these on. The first one is the Flower Beauty Blush Balm in Pinched. I just talked about this in my video on Tuesday about products I changed my mind about. I used to love this blush, and now it just barely shows up on me. And some people were saying they had the same experience where it used to show up on them, and then after they'd had it for a few years, they felt like it lost pigment. And then some people were saying people who have watched me for a while remember when I used to love this. They said that back then I used to be more into a really subtle blush, which is true. I definitely have gotten more into like a heavier, more noticeable blush look, and I used to go for more subtle blushes. So I think that's why I used to like this when I was first getting into cream and liquid blushes. I guess I liked that it was kind of a barely there sort of blush. That was just more my style back then. So I feel like it's probably a combination of those two, my preferences changing, and maybe because this is a little bit older, maybe it has lost pigment over time. Some people have also told me that they've tried this shade and it barely showed up on them, but they have other shades that they love that are more pigmented. So definitely not a knock on this formula overall, but this particular shade just is not bringing me happiness like it used to, and I feel like I've gotten a lot of use out of this. I mean, you can see I've definitely used quite a bit of it, and I know I could use this to maybe like mix with other blushes to sheer them out or to sheer out liquid lipsticks that I'm using for blush, but I did try that once, and I just feel like for that type of purpose, I prefer to use a concealer rather than this type of liquid blush. I think it is probably just time to toss this because I have had it for probably about 3 years at this point. I think that's pretty old. I don't think I'd be comfortable passing that on to someone else, especially with how little product is left in here anyway. So I'll go ahead and clean it out and I'll send it off with my recyclables. I have a video on how to recycle makeup if you want to hear about that, but that's gonna go. It's time to bid farewell to that, that liquid blush. It served me well for a while. Okay, another cream blush I've decided to let go of is this one from Annabelle. I'm sad to part with this because my friend in Canada sent me this. Annabelle is a Canadian brand, and I do really like this blush, but I realized that I have another cream blush in my collection that is identical to this shade, and it just doesn't make sense to keep two of the exact same shade. So I think I'm going to pass this on to maybe my mom or a friend or somebody who would use this because it's a beautiful blush, a beautiful formula. The blush I'm talking about that it's basically a dupe for is the LYS Higher Standard Satin Matte Cream Blush in the shade Kindness. And I actually have realized I have a lot of coral blushes in my collection, both cream and powder. Most of my blush collection is kind of in the peach and coral category, so that's something I need to keep in mind in the future. Maybe if I'm shopping for blushes, I need to try to branch out a little bit and not buy yet another coral blush. But I mean, just look at these two shades. And I'll even swatch them side by side for you. There's the Annabelle, really pretty, kind of bright coral shade. And there's the LYS. I mean, they're basically the same color. And I do have a slight preference for this format in a compact versus a stick. I just like applying cream blushes from a compact a little bit more, so that's why I'm going to keep the LYS one. But honestly, if you have access to Annabelle where you live, I do think this is a really great cream blush formula. I do recommend it. It just doesn't make sense for me to keep both. I feel like, you know, one of them is going to end up expiring before I end up being able to use them both up, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and pass this on while it's still good. And then, yes, I do have a third cream blush that I am passing on. It is the All Good Get Glowing in the shade Coral. So this is a cream blush. You can also use it on your lips, and it has SPF 15 in it, which is really nice. I like that it has that. It's just kind of nice, especially if you're going to be outside, just to have a little bit of extra sun protection on your cheeks. And I actually have two of these, and I am keeping the other shade. I'll go ahead and show you that one as well. This is the other shade I have called Jam. Jam is a little bit more of a plummy mauve kind of shade, and Coral is more of a true coral. And I am keeping Jam because I do like to have a product like this in my collection. I like that it has SPF 15 in it. It's something I might bring along with me if I go on vacation or something, if I'm going to be outside. Just a nice, easy product to throw on, and I can also throw it on my lips for a tinted SPF lip balm. And I decided to get rid of Coral, even though this shade is so pretty. I'm looking at it like, oh, I wish I could keep it. But again, I have so many coral blushes in my collection. My collection is dominated by shades just like this, and I don't have as many kind of cooler tone blushes like this one. So that's why I'm going to keep this one and pass on Coral. I'm also not in love with this formula, which is why I don't feel like I need to have two of them in my collection. It is a little bit of a sticky, actually quite sticky, like it feels, I put it right up to the mic so you can kind of hear the sound that that makes. It is quite sticky, so it's a useful product to have in my arsenal, I think, but I just don't really want to keep both, especially because I feel like this is a more like natural brand. I know I won't be able to use up both of these before they expire, and so I'm just going to go ahead and pass on the shade that I already have a million of in my collection. I also have decided to pass on my All Good Get Glowing Shimmer shade. So this does not have any SPF in it. It's just kind of a clear highlighter sort of color. And I've kind of just realized this type of product is not really my vibe. I don't really use this very often. I used this actually in a recent video about products I forgot about because I'm constantly forgetting about it. It does have a little bit of this shimmer to it, but it's mostly just one of those glossy, like clear highlights, and I just don't really use that type of highlight. I kept it for a while because I like the idea of that, but realistically, in practice, I don't use it. If I want a more natural looking highlight, I will wear one of my more subtle cream highlights like my Becca liquid highlight or my Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless filter, but this kind of like glossy highlight I'm not really a fan of, and I don't like the texture of it. It's very sticky again, so yeah, I'm kind of just ready to move on from both of those, but I'm happy to have that jam shade still in my collection. So then I have two eyeshadow palettes I've decided to pass on. I was thinking about doing like a full eyeshadow palette declutter, but then I realized I don't have very many that I would want to get rid of. I really only had two that I was ready to part with, at least right now. I probably will do a bigger, like full collection declutter more towards the halfway point of the year. But I just did like a big collection declutter in December, so it really hasn't been that long. These are just a few little things here and there I wanted to pass on. But the first palette, I've been thinking about this for a while, and it's time. It's just, I don't need to keep this. This is the Profusion Pastel palette. I haven't had this that long. I think I bought this last summer. I haven't used it very much. I think what I've decided about Profusion eyeshadows, their matte formula leaves a lot to be desired for me. Their shimmer formula is absolutely incredible. I have their Mauves palette and it is amazing. It's in the same type of packaging, $5. It's a mix of mattes and shimmers, but you know, the mattes are fine, the shimmers are amazing, so that's what makes that palette worth keeping for me. But this is an all matte palette, and I feel like these shadows, they do lack pigmentation. You can absolutely get a beautiful look with these, especially if you layer them over like a white base like the NYX Jumbo Pencil in Milk. The other thing is I don't feel like I'm gonna be missing any of these specific colors when I pass this on, because in 2021 I acquired quite a few pastel eyeshadows, and I just feel like I've got all my bases covered between my Clarity Cosmetics So Mermazing palette. This has a nice mix of mattes and shimmers. Not my favorite matte formula either, but I do like these mattes better than the Profusion ones. As well as my BH Cosmetics Lost in Los Angeles palette. This has a beautiful mix of pastels and just lighter, colorful shades in general. And my ColourPop In a Trance palette has some of those blues and purples that this palette has. So I looked through all these shades one by one, and I felt like I had dupes for all of them. The only one I don't feel like I have a dupe for in my collection is the shade Good Luck here, this kind of like medium bright green color. So part of me was like, maybe I should keep it just for that shade. I don't want to keep a palette just for one shade, especially a palette that I feel like I can count on one hand the number of times I've used it since I bought it. And I don't even know, I think I've maybe used that shade once. So it's not like I'm jumping up and down about this shade now when I currently have it in my collection. So I really doubt I'm going to miss it when it's gone. I don't wear colors like that very often. If I do want to do a bright green look, I have other bright greens that I can play with. You know, the Lost in Los Angeles palette has this shade, which is a little bit more of a minty green, but I feel like it's similar enough to Good Luck. You know, I mean, for how often I wear bright green eyeshadow, I just don't think I'm gonna miss that color. So yeah, I kind of feel a weight lifted off of me passing this on, honestly. I feel like somebody else could really enjoy this, but I have a ton of pastels in my collection, and yeah, I love pastel shadows, but it's not like I wear them that often, so I just don't feel like I need to keep all of my pastels, and this is the one that is gonna get cut out if I'm gonna cut any of them out. The other palette I've decided to part with is this one from Estate Cosmetics. This is the Hidden Garden palette. Again, I think I could count on one hand the number of times I've used this since I got it. This was sent to me in PR along with their Mystic Forest palette, which I love. This is Mystic Forest. Oh my gosh, I just dug my finger into that olive green shade. And there's Hidden Garden. These both launched at the same time last year, but I love the Mystic Forest palette. It's such a pretty fall palette. I especially love those two shimmers there and the kind of mustardy orange tones, so that one is a keeper for sure. But Hidden Garden, I just feel like I have all these shades in other palettes. It is a really pretty color story, kind of makes me think of the springtime, but I just don't feel excited to use this. I haven't really used it much. It's a nice selection of some neutrals and then some, you know, a green, a kind of reddish maroon color, a purple. But if I go through all these shades, the neutral shades, I have all of those in other palettes. I don't really use dark shimmery purples like this. The green is really the only one that I feel like stands out as something that might be different, but I have shades like that in my e.l.f. Earth and Ocean palette, in my Billie Beauty Eyes of India palette, so I just don't see myself having any reason to hold on to this. I'd rather just pass it on. Again, I think I've maybe used it like 3 times. Pretty palette, but I don't feel like it's really adding anything special to my collection. So I would say the quality of this is really nice. So if this looks like your perfect palette, then I don't think it's bad. I would recommend it, but it's just not something that I need to keep given the collection that I already have in place. So those are the 2 palettes that I'm honestly just really happy to let go of, give them to someone else. They're both on the newer side. I really haven't used either one of these very much, so I'm excited to, let someone else get some enjoyment out of them. The other thing I was thinking, and it kind of helped me solidify my decision to get rid of both of these, is my Pan Those Eyeshadows update is coming up. I do those updates at the beginning of each month, and I will be rolling in some new shadows in that update. Very exciting. I cannot wait to film that. But I was thinking, if a shade from either of these palettes got chosen, I think I would be kind of bummed. And so that, for me, is the telltale sign that, I shouldn't hold on to these. Because I want to be able to look at all my eyeshadows and have any shade be selected from my collection and be genuinely excited to use that shade and that palette. And these 2, I don't think I would be that excited about. So knowing that, I feel really good about letting go of those. Alright, and then the final product I've decided to let go of is a lip product. This is also very new to me. It was sent in PR. I just don't like this. It doesn't work well for me. This is the Flower Beauty Bitten Lip Stain in the shade Play. I reviewed this in my most recent speed reviews video. Really pretty color. I like this kind of berry shade quite a bit. I think it's beautiful. But unfortunately, this is very patchy on my lips. It's, you gotta be really careful about how you apply it. If you layer it on too much, it'll start to pick up in certain areas. It's just weird. And then, the stain does kind of stick around for a few hours, I would say, but once that kind of top glossy layer wears off, it just looks really patchy. So it's just not flattering. I don't see a need to keep this, other than maybe I would talk about it in my end of the year fails video, but I'll just kind of make a note, jot that down, and keep a picture of what it looked like when I wore it so I could talk about it then, but I don't need to keep the product in my collection for that. I'm sure this would make a pretty cream blush perhaps, but I just have so many blushes already in my collection, and the fact that I received this in PR, it's not like I paid for it myself. I don't feel this need to get my money's worth out of it. I don't really care that much. I'd rather just let go of it. Maybe it would work better for somebody else, but just for whatever reason, does not work well on my lips. So those are all the things I've decided to let go of. 9 items total. Feels really good to clear these things out. I haven't bought any makeup so far this year, not necessarily on purpose. I just haven't really been in the mood to buy makeup. I'm not on an intentional no buy, although I do have a category specific no buy going on. But yeah, it's just been kind of unintentional, but it's been nice to just kind of use what I have. I feel like I've really been able to kind of narrow down which products are just not working for me, that I'm not enjoying, that aren't really adding anything special to my collection. So feels good to let go of these. I will be rehoming all of these. I do have a video on my channel about what to do with decluttered makeup. So if you want to hear some ideas there, I will link that below for you as well. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. It really does help my channel out. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on future videos. And hopefully I will talk to you again very soon in my next video. It just got really dark in here. Okay, bye!